You ever notice how the harder you try to make people like you, the less they actually do? It's strange, isn't it? You bend, you soften, you overextend, you say yes when you want to say no, and somehow, instead of drawing people closer, they start pulling away. They stop respecting you. They stop listening. You can feel it. Their tone changes, their energy shifts, and suddenly you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? That's the problem. You did too much. We live in a world that tells you to be agreeable, likable, relatable, to make everyone comfortable, even when it costs you your dignity. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. The more you try to be liked, the less people actually like you. Because when you chase approval, you communicate one thing. You don't believe you're enough as you are. And the moment you give off that energy, people sense it. They may not consciously understand it, but deep down they feel it and they respond accordingly. With less respect, less attention, less admiration. Think about the people you admire most. They're not the ones begging for validation. They're the ones who walk into a room and command respect without saying a word. They don't need to be liked. They're too busy being authentic. They're grounded, calm, composed. They know who they are, and that quiet confidence draws people in, like gravity. But most of us, we do the opposite. We dilute ourselves, thinking it will make us more likable. We nod when we disagree. We laugh at jokes that aren't funny. We bite our tongue when we should speak truth. We shrink just a little, thinking smallness makes us safer. But all it really does is make us invisible. And here's the twist. People don't actually like you more when you try to please them. They like you less, because something about it feels off. It feels forced. People can feel when your kindness isn't genuine, when it's driven by fear instead of strength. They respect boundaries, not begging. They admire honesty, not over-accommodation. So if you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, why do I feel so drained? It's probably because you were performing. You were managing other people's emotions instead of protecting your own. You were giving energy to gain acceptance, and that's the fastest way to lose both. You want to know the truth about human connection? People like strength. They like certainty. They like those who are comfortable in their own skin. The most magnetic people are not the loudest or the most agreeable. They're the most authentic. They know exactly who they are, what they stand for, and what they will and will not tolerate. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, good. It should. Because comfort isn't what builds connection, respect is. So today, I want you to stop chasing the illusion of being liked and start building something much stronger, being respected. Because when you stop performing and start showing up as yourself, flaws, boundaries and all, something powerful happens. The wrong people will fall away, but the right ones will finally see you. And that's when life changes. When you stop trying to fit in and start standing out, when you stop asking for permission to exist and start walking like you belong, that's when people start to notice. Not because you're trying, but because you finally stop. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why the most likable people are the ones who don't chase being liked at all. They've mastered something deeper, authentic confidence. And once you understand that, you'll never waste another second trying to prove your worth again. Most people spend their entire lives trying to be liked. They change how they talk, how they dress, how they behave, all to fit the mold of what they think others will approve of. They say yes when they mean no, laugh when they don't find it funny, and agree just to avoid conflict. But the truth is, when you live your life trying to be liked, you don't win people's respect. You lose it. You lose yourself. You become a watered-down version of who you were meant to be, and people can feel it. You might think being agreeable makes you more likable, but what it really does is make you forgettable. The need to be liked comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, a fear of being misunderstood. We've been conditioned to believe that if everyone likes us, we're safe. But safety built on approval is an illusion. It's fragile, because the moment someone disapproves of you, your sense of self collapses. That's not power, that's dependency. You're handing strangers the keys to your peace. And no one, absolutely no one, should hold that kind of power over you. Here's what most people don't realize. Respect and likability are not the same thing. Being liked is surface level. It's about making people comfortable. Being respected is deeper. It's about making people trust you. Liking is emotional. Respecting is rational. And people may not always like those they respect, but they always value them. When someone respects you, they listen when you speak. They think twice before crossing your boundaries. They see you as solid as someone who stands firm, even when it's inconvenient, and that's far more valuable than fleeting approval. When you focus on being liked, you compromise. You avoid saying what you think. You soften your voice so others don't feel threatened. You sacrifice your standards to keep the peace. And ironically, that's the exact moment people start losing respect for you. Because humans are wired to test boundaries. The moment they sense you'll bend easily, they stop valuing your presence. They might still smile in your face, but deep down they no longer take you seriously. They know they can manipulate you, and that's the death of respect. On the other hand, when you stop chasing approval and start standing in your truth, something shifts. People might resist it at first. They might even call you difficult, cold, or intimidating. That's okay. It's because they're adjusting to your new boundaries. You're no longer playing the role they're used to. But give it time. Eventually, even those who disagree with you will respect you. Why? Because consistency commands respect. You've shown them that your values aren't negotiable. You've shown them that your peace is not up for sale. True confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. It's quiet, steady, and grounded. You know who has it? The people who no longer need everyone to like them. They walk into a room not wondering, will they approve of me? But thinking, do I approve of this energy? Do I even want to be here? That's power. That's presence. It's not arrogance. It's awareness. It's understanding your worth to such a degree that someone's opinion doesn't raise or lower your value. But getting to that place takes work. It takes unlearning a lifetime of conditioning. You have to become comfortable with being misunderstood. You have to be okay with not being everyone's favorite person. Because here's the truth, when you stop trying to please everyone, some people will leave. They'll call you selfish. They'll accuse you of changing. Let them. You're not changing, you're evolving. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming clear. Clarity is intimidating to people who benefit from your confusion. You want to know what real likability looks like? It's not a smile plastered on your face. It's not constant agreement. It's self-assurance. People gravitate toward those who are secure in themselves because it makes them feel safe too. They might not even be able to explain why, but they sense it. You walk differently. You speak with conviction. You don't fill silences with nervous laughter. You make eye contact. You set boundaries without guilt. That's magnetic. People trust people who trust themselves. And ironically, that's when people start liking you more. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because they can finally see the real you. Authenticity is rare. In a world full of masks, truth stands out. People can sense when you're pretending. They might not say it, but they feel it. And when you're real, when your yes means yes and your no means no, they feel safe around you. Because you've shown them something solid in a world full of shifting sand. So how do you stop trying to be liked and start being respected? You start by paying attention to how you feel after interactions. If you leave a conversation feeling drained, small, or uncertain, ask yourself why. Did you betray yourself to keep someone comfortable? Did you agree just to avoid conflict? Did you silence your opinion to keep the peace? Every time you do that, you trade self-respect for external approval. It's a bad deal, and you can't build confidence on bad deal. Next, practice saying no. You don't owe anyone a justification. No is a full sentence. Every time you honor your boundaries, you reinforce your self-worth. People might not like it at first, but they'll respect it in the long run. Remember, respect grows in the soil of consistency. When people see that your boundaries don't bend based on who's asking, they start to trust your word. Stop apologizing for having standards. Stop softening your tone so others feel bigger. Stop explaining your worth to people who can't see it. You don't owe anyone that performance. You're not here to be agreeable. You're here to be authentic. The right people will love you for it. The wrong ones will fall away. That's how you filter your life without saying a word. And most importantly, learn to be comfortable with silence. Don't rush to fill it. Don't panic when someone disapproves. Let it sit. Strength is found in the pause between reaction and response. That's where respect is built. The person who can stay calm under pressure, who doesn't need to justify, prove, or please, is the one people remember. So stop trying to be liked. It's exhausting, it's unsustainable, and it's unnecessary. Instead, focus on being someone who can stand alone if they have to. The paradox is, the moment you no longer need everyone to like you, you become infinitely more likable because people are drawn to those who move with certainty. They want to be around people who know who they are. And when you get there, when you finally understand that respect will always outlast approval, you'll stop chasing smiles and start commanding presence. You'll walk differently. You'll speak differently. You'll live differently. Because the most likable person in any room isn't the one trying the hardest. It's the one who's already at peace with who they are. We live in a world where everyone is constantly talking, posting, and sharing. People announce their thoughts, their struggles, their wins, their heartbreaks, all in real time. The world has taught us that the more open we are, the more authentic we seem. But there's a difference between authenticity and exposure. One builds connection, the other erodes respect. You don't need to put your entire soul on display for people to see your worth. In fact, the moment you stop oversharing, you become more magnetic. Mystery doesn't repel people, it draws them in. Oversharing often comes from insecurity, not confidence. It's a subtle attempt to gain understanding or approval. We tell ourselves, if I'm transparent, they'll trust me. If I open up, they'll see I'm genuine. But what really happens is the opposite. The more people know, the more they start to feel entitled to your life. They stop valuing your privacy because you've shown them it's free. They start to form opinions, judgments, and assumptions that you can't control. And before long, your story isn't yours anymore. It's public property. There's power in silence. There's strength in restraint. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world just because they ask for it. In fact, what separates the confident from the desperate is how much they choose not to reveal. Think of the most commanding people you've ever met. The ones who walk into a room and immediately draw attention without saying much. They're not mysterious because they're hiding something. They're mysterious because they know not everything needs to be said. Their energy speaks louder than their words ever could. Oversharing usually starts from a good place. We want to connect. We want to feel understood. But the truth is, not everyone deserves your story. When you hand out personal details too easily, people stop earning the right to know you. You give them all the answers before they've even earned the questions. And that kills curiosity. Curiosity is what makes people care. It's what keeps relationships, personal or professional, alive. Without a sense of discovery, people lose interest. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't tell you everything. Someone who speaks with precision, not volume. When you share less, every word carries more weight. You become the kind of person people listen to, not just hear. You stop being predictable. You become intriguing. It's not about being secretive or distant. It's about being intentional. You share what's necessary, what's earned, what adds value. The rest stays with you. That's not being closed off. That's being in control. Oversharing can also dilute your authority. Think about it. When someone constantly talks about their personal struggles, emotions, or every detail of their life, it might make them relatable, but it also makes them appear unstable. People trust composure, not chaos. The strongest leaders, mentors, and thinkers don't unload their entire emotional diary on the world. They choose what to reveal and when to reveal it. Their words are measured, their emotions are disciplined. And that's what makes people listen. Now, this doesn't mean you should become robotic or unemotional. Vulnerability is still powerful, but it has to be selective. Vulnerability is not about telling everyone everything. It's about knowing who can hold your truth. You don't hand a glass heart to someone who drops things. You don't tell your dreams to people who don't believe in themselves. Protect your peace like currency, because that's exactly what it is. Emotional currency. Spend it wisely, not desperately. Part of the reason people overshare is because they want to fill silence. Silence makes them uncomfortable. They feel like if they're not constantly talking, they'll lose attention. But silence is where power lives. When you can sit in a conversation, composed, unbothered, without feeling the need to fill every gap, you stand out. You project control. You become memorable. Silence builds tension, and tension builds curiosity. People start to lean in, wondering what you're thinking, what you'll say next. That's magnetism. There's a saying, the less they know, the more they'll want to find out. That's not manipulation, that's human psychology. We value what feels rare. We chase what we can't easily define. When you constantly explain yourself, you remove all sense of rarity. You become predictable, transparent, ordinary. But when you keep parts of yourself private, your thoughts, your next move, your emotional process, you become layered. People start paying attention not because you're loud, but because you're composed. Another danger of oversharing is that it gives people ammunition. Not everyone listening to your story wants to see you win. Some are collecting details, not to understand you, but to use them later. Every word you speak becomes a tool in someone else's hands. When you learn to keep certain things to yourself, you protect not just your peace, but your power. You give people less to twist, less to manipulate, less to misunderstand. And when they can't read you easily, they have to respect you. Because mystery creates boundaries, and boundaries create safety. Think of your energy like a vault. Not everyone deserves the combination. Let people earn it. The more disciplined you are with your emotional exposure, the stronger your relationships will become. Why? Because you'll attract people who value depth, not drama. People who appreciate your composure, not your chaos. People who don't need to know every detail to trust you. Those are the ones worth keeping. Oversharing also dilutes your personal brand. Every time you post your pain online or vent to people who haven't earned your trust, you train others to see you through your wounds instead of your strength. You make temporary emotions look like permanent traits. The next time you feel like unloading your heart to someone or to social media, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this to connect or to be validated? If the answer is validation, hold it. You don't need to bleed to prove you're real. You can be genuine without being exposed. The art of mystery isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. It's about understanding that privacy is power. The less people know about your vulnerabilities, your triggers, and your next move, the more control you have over your life. You're not being secretive. You're being strategic. You're not hiding. You're protecting your energy from those who don't deserve it. The world tells you to be transparent. But real transparency is not about telling everyone everything. It's about being clear in your intentions, honest in your character, and selective with your access. You can be open without being exposed. You can be authentic without being an open book. Here's what happens when you embrace mystery. People start to approach you differently. They lower their voice when they speak to you. They pay closer attention to your words. They seek your opinion. They treat your presence like it matters, because it does. You become someone who commands respect simply by not needing to explain yourself. So stop oversharing. Not because you're cold or distant, but because you're finally aware of your value. Protect your story like it's gold, because it is. You've worked too hard to hand your peace over for free. Let people earn your depth, your truth, your vulnerability. The right ones will. And when they do, it'll mean something. Mystery doesn't make you hard to love. It makes you unforgettable. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows they don't need to say everything to be seen. They just need to stand firm, composed, and certain of who they are. And that right there is the kind of energy that draws the world in without you ever having to chase it. We apologize too much, not just for mistakes, but for existing, for speaking, for taking up space. You can hear it in the way people talk. Sorry, can I just say something? Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. Sorry, this might sound dumb, but it's a habit, almost a reflex. We apologize for our opinions, for our boundaries, for our successes, and even for our silence. And every time we do, we chip away at our own confidence without realizing it. Because constant apology sends one message to the world. I don't believe I deserve to be here. You were not put on this planet to shrink. You don't need to soften your edges to make other people comfortable. But somewhere along the line, most of us were taught that humility means making ourselves small. That being likable means being agreeable. That politeness means never upsetting anyone. But that's not humility. That's fear in disguise. It's the fear of rejection, of being judged, of standing out. And the tragedy is, the more you apologize for yourself, the more you teach others to doubt you too. Think about it. Every time you preface a statement with sorry, you lower your authority. You frame your words as something that needs forgiveness before it's even been heard. You strip your voice of power before it leaves your mouth. Confidence doesn't start with being the loudest person in the room. It starts with speaking without permission. It's the quiet certainty that your thoughts have value, even if not everyone agrees with them. The world respects people who own their space. Not because they're arrogant, but because they're grounded. They don't flinch when they speak. They don't over-explain their worth. They know their presence has weight, and they don't apologize for it. When you stop apologizing for who you are, people take notice. They start to lean in, because confidence is magnetic. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that simply is. Now don't misunderstand this. There's a difference between taking accountability and apologizing for your existence. If you hurt someone, yes, own it. That's maturity. But apologizing for your personality, your boundaries, your ideas, or your success, that's self-betrayal. That's the kind of apology that trains your mind to believe you're an inconvenience. And once you start seeing yourself as an inconvenience, everyone else will too. We live in a time where people confuse humility with self-erasure. They think confidence is arrogance and self-assurance is ego. But there's nothing arrogant about knowing who you are. There's nothing wrong with saying, this is me, this is what I believe, this is what I stand for. The people who are intimidated by that are often the ones who benefit from your silence. And you know where this pattern usually begins? Childhood. We're told, don't be too loud, don't be too opinionated, don't make people uncomfortable. So we learn to dim ourselves. We internalize the idea that being liked is more important than being authentic. That's how we become adults who whisper their truths and smile when they want to scream. But here's the thing, you can't inspire anyone by being small. You can't lead from the background. The world doesn't change when you blend in. It changes when you stand tall and say, this is who I am, unapologetically. You don't have to be rude or aggressive to stand in your truth. In fact, real power is quiet. It's calm. It's the ability to say no without guilt, to walk away from situations that compromise your values, to express your opinions without waiting for permission. That's the kind of confidence that earns respect. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that simply refuses to shrink. You might lose people when you stop apologizing for who you are. Some will call you difficult or changed, but that's okay. They were only comfortable with you when you were playing small. The moment you stop apologizing, you expose who was benefiting from your silence. And that's the greatest filter you could ever have. Because the right people won't need you to apologize for your boundaries or your brilliance. They'll celebrate them. Start paying attention to how often sorry leaves your mouth when you've done nothing wrong. You'll be shocked. You apologize for interrupting when it's your turn to speak. You apologize for asking questions, for needing space, for having feelings. It's time to replace that word with strength. Instead of sorry, try thank you. Don't say, sorry I'm late. Say thank you for waiting. Don't say sorry I talk too much. Say thank you for listening. That small shift changes your entire energy. You move from guilt to gratitude, from weakness to confidence. And sometimes the apology isn't verbal, it's behavioral. It's when you minimize your success so others don't feel insecure. When you hide your accomplishments because you're afraid of being judged. When you pretend to be less intelligent, less capable, less ambitious, just to make someone else feel comfortable. That's an unspoken apology. And it's one of the most dangerous kinds. Because it tells your subconscious that being your full self is wrong. It teaches you to associate strength with shame. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that fits their comfort zone. If your light bothers them, let them wear shades. If your truth makes them uneasy, that's their discomfort to carry, not yours. You were not meant to be small. You were meant to be seen. And the moment you stop apologizing for that, you become unstoppable. The world responds differently to people who move with certainty. When you speak with conviction, people listen. When you make decisions without second-guessing yourself, people trust you. When you stop explaining why you deserve to exist, people start believing it too. Because confidence isn't about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing you don't have to prove that you're enough. So stop apologizing for being passionate. Stop apologizing for being strong. Stop apologizing for being emotional, ambitious, bold, or opinionated. Every time you say sorry for your authenticity, you teach others that your power needs permission. It doesn't. And here's the truth. People will respect you more when you stop apologizing. They'll sense the difference. They'll feel your energy shift from uncertainty to self-trust. They'll start to see you as someone who stands firm, someone whose approval they have to earn, not someone who's begging for theirs. There's a quiet freedom that comes when you finally stop seeking forgiveness for your existence. You start walking differently. You stop justifying your dreams. You stop explaining your worth. You start living unapologetically, boldly, fully. And that's when you become magnetic. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who's completely comfortable being themselves. So, the next time you feel that sorry on the tip of your tongue, pause. Ask yourself, have I actually done something wrong, or am I just afraid of being fully seen? If it's the latter, swallow the apology and stand tall. You don't owe anyone an explanation for being who you are. You just owe yourself the permission to stay that way. We spend so much of our lives trying to fit in, trying to belong, trying to be accepted, trying not to stand out too much. It starts early. You learn as a kid that being different draws attention. And attention can be dangerous. Maybe you got laughed at for dressing differently, for thinking differently, for speaking up when everyone else stayed quiet. So you learn to blend in. You learn to edit yourself. You started shaping your behavior, your tone, your opinions, all to match what others expected. You became who the world told you to be, not who you truly are. And somewhere along the line you forgot that you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. The truth is, the need to fit in is one of the most powerful forms of self-sabotage. Because when you spend your life molding yourself to be acceptable, you lose the very thing that makes you magnetic. Your authenticity. The people who make an impact in this world, the ones who inspire, who lead, who create change, they're not the ones who blended in. They're the ones who had the courage to be different, even when it was uncomfortable. They understood something most people never learn. Fitting in keeps you safe, but standing out sets you free. Standing out doesn't mean being loud or attention-seeking. It's not about trying to shock people or prove something. It's about being intentional with your difference. It's about walking in your truth so confidently that you no longer need the crowd's approval to validate it. That's real freedom. The kind that doesn't waver when someone disagrees. The kind that doesn't break when someone criticizes you. The reason most people struggle to stand out is because they confuse belonging with acceptance. Belonging means being valued for who you are. Acceptance often means being tolerated as long as you play by someone else's rules. And those rules come with invisible strings. Don't be too opinionated. Don't be too ambitious. Don't be too emotional. Don't be too much. So you shrink. You edit yourself down to what's palatable, digestible, safe. But when you shrink to fit the room, you lose the ability to change it. Every great leader, creator, or visionary has faced that moment, the choice between fitting in and standing out. The moment where your truth starts to cost you something. Comfort, relationships, approval. And that's when most people retreat. They go back to blending in because standing out can be lonely. It's uncomfortable. It forces you to walk alone for a while. But here's the beauty of it. Once you get through that loneliness, you attract people who resonate with your truth. Not your mask. You stop chasing belonging and start creating it. Fitting in feels safe because it gives you instant validation. But that validation is temporary. It's based on who you pretend to be, not who you really are. And the moment you slip, the moment you speak your truth, that acceptance can disappear. Standing out, on the other hand, might not give you instant approval, but it gives you something far greater, integrity. And integrity lasts. When you choose to stand out with intention, you stop living reactively and start living deliberately. You stop letting other people's expectations define you. You become grounded in your identity, your values, and your purpose. That's the kind of confidence that can't be faked. It's quiet, steady, and undeniable. People can feel it when you walk in a room. Not because you're trying to be noticed, but because your energy commands respect. The world doesn't need more copies. It doesn't need more people trying to blend in to be accepted. It needs people who are willing to disrupt the pattern. It needs people who lead with conviction, who think differently, who speak truth even when their voice shakes. Because authenticity gives others permission to be real too. When you stand out unapologetically, you become a mirror for others to see what's possible when they stop hiding. Fitting in often comes from fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure. But standing out comes from clarity. When you know who you are, what you believe, and what you stand for, other people's opinions lose their power. You realize that not everyone has to like you, not everyone has to understand you, and not everyone is meant to walk with you. You stop chasing universal approval and start aligning with purposeful connection. Standing out with intention means choosing authenticity over acceptance, even when it costs you comfort. It's the courage to say, I'd rather be real and alone than fake and surrounded. It's knowing that the right people will find you when you stop pretending to be someone else. It's understanding that rejection is just redirection. Every no pushes you closer to where you truly belong. And when you stand out intentionally, you start noticing how your energy changes. You speak with more conviction because your words actually mean something. You make decisions faster because they're guided by values, not by fear. You carry yourself differently. Your posture, your tone, your presence all shift because you're no longer seeking permission to exist. You're taking ownership of your existence. That's power. That's presence. You might notice resistance from others. When you stop conforming, people who benefited from your compliance will push back. They'll question your confidence, your decisions, even your worth. But don't let that shake you. That resistance is confirmation that you're evolving. You're breaking patterns they were comfortable with. And the more you grow, the more you'll outgrow certain rooms, relationships, and roles. That's not loss. That's progress. The irony is, the more you embrace standing out, the more people actually respect you. Because deep down, everyone wants to be free, to say what they mean, to live how they want, to stop pretending. When they see you doing it, even if they don't admit it, they admire it. Your courage becomes contagious. Your authenticity becomes influence. You were never meant to be a replica. You were designed to be original. Your voice, your story, your energy, they have a frequency no one else can replicate. Every time you try to fit in, you lower that frequency to match the noise around you. But when you stand out intentionally, you rise above it. You create your own rhythm, your own lane, your own identity. And that's where you find your power, not in being accepted by everyone, but in being aligned with yourself. So stop apologizing for being different. Stop watering yourself down to blend in. Stop trading your authenticity for approval. The world doesn't need another version of what already exists. It needs you, the real, raw, unapologetic you, the one who knows that fitting in is comfortable, but standing out is meaningful. Because when you finally stop trying to fit in, you discover something extraordinary you were never supposed to. You were meant to lead, to inspire, to stand tall in your truth. You were meant to live with intention, not imitation. So walk into every room with quiet certainty. You don't need to belong to everyone. You just need to belong to yourself. And when you do, you'll attract the people, the opportunities, and the life that align with the person you were always meant to be. We spend so much of our lives waiting for someone to tell us it's okay. Okay to speak. Okay to try. Okay to be who we are. We wait for approval before we take the next step from parents, bosses, friends, society. We hold back ideas, dreams, and desires because somewhere in the back of our minds, we believe that we need someone else to validate them. We wait for that invisible nod, the one that says, you're good enough now. But here's the truth. No one is coming to hand you permission. The approval you're waiting for isn't out there. It's already within you. Think about how many times you've dimmed your light because you were afraid of what people might think. How many times you didn't apply for something because you weren't ready. How many times you watered down your ideas because you didn't want to seem arrogant, too bold, too ambitious. That's not humility, that's hesitation. It's the fear of disapproval, disguised as being considerate. We've been conditioned to seek permission because the world tells us that validation equals worth. But validation is fleeting. The moment you build your identity on other people's approval, you also hand them the power to destroy it. The strongest, most successful, and most fulfilled people are not the ones who were given permission to lead. They're the ones who gave it to themselves. They decided that waiting was no longer an option. They stopped asking, am I ready? And started saying, I'll figure it out. That's the mindset shift that changes everything. Because when you stop waiting for permission, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Every time you ask for approval before moving forward, what you're really asking is, am I enough? And when you make that question a habit, you build a cage around your potential. The moment you need someone to validate your choices, you've already given away your freedom, because now their opinion defines your next move. And the more you rely on that, the less you trust yourself. You start second-guessing your instincts, your talent, your worth. You become addicted to the nod, the compliment, the yes you can. But what happens when that approval doesn't come? When people don't clap, when they criticize instead of celebrate. Most people freeze. They take silence as rejection and rejection as proof that they weren't enough in the first place. That's where most dreams die. Not because someone said no, but because we believed we needed that yes. When you stop seeking permission, you reclaim your power. You stop asking for seats at tables that were never meant for you and start building your own. You stop waiting for an opportunity to show up and start creating one. You stop wondering if people will understand and start doing what feels right for you, because the truth is, they don't have to understand. You don't need to explain every decision to people who haven't walked your path. Giving yourself approval doesn't mean ignoring feedback or being arrogant. It means you're grounded enough in your self-belief that external validation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. It means you trust your instincts even when others doubt them. It means you move forward despite uncertainty, not because someone said you could, but because you decided you would. Think about the people who inspire you, the ones who dared to do something different. Do you think they were universally accepted? Do you think everyone understood them? Not even close. Most of them were doubted, criticized, even ridiculed, until they succeeded. Then suddenly everyone said, I always knew they'd make it. But here's the thing. They didn't wait for that support. They acted without it. Because they knew if they waited for permission, they'd still be waiting. You don't need permission to be bold. You don't need permission to fail. You don't need permission to change your mind, to outgrow people, to evolve. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to rewrite your story without asking anyone if it's okay. That's what freedom really means. When you seek permission, you're giving someone else the power to define your limits. And most of the time, the people whose approval you crave are still struggling with their own fears. They can't see your vision because it's not there. They project their limitations onto you, and you mistake it for wisdom. But the truth is, no one can validate what they don't understand. Your dreams weren't given to them. They were given to you. There's a quiet power in deciding that your approval is enough. It's the kind of strength that makes people pay attention. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop defending your decisions. You stop chasing understanding. You move differently. You speak with conviction. You live with clarity, and that's when opportunities start to show up. Because energy attracts energy. When you act like someone who doesn't need permission, life starts responding to you, like someone who's in charge. You can feel the difference in people who have given themselves approval. They walk into a room differently, not arrogantly, but with calm assurance. They don't compete for attention because they're not performing. They don't beg for validation because they're self-sustained. They don't fear rejection because they're not asking to be chosen. They've already chosen themselves. That's power. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first. When you stop seeking permission, you'll face resistance. People will call you rebellious, stubborn, even selfish. But that's only because your confidence exposes their hesitation. Your self-approval reminds them of the power they've been too afraid to claim. So let them talk, let them misunderstand. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to live in alignment with your purpose, not their comfort. Start small. Approve yourself in the everyday moments. Don't wait for someone to say your idea is good. Start it. Don't wait for someone to tell you you're ready. Take the first step. Don't wait for someone to recognize your worth. Walk like you already know it. Because when you start acting like you belong, the world starts treating you like you do. The truth is, no one can give you permission to live fully, because it's not theirs to give. You are the authority on your life. You get to decide what's possible for you, what's right for you, and when it's time to begin. Approval doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment, from knowing that the life you're living reflects the person you were meant to be. So stop waiting, stop asking, stop doubting. You are not behind. You are not unqualified. You are not too much. You are exactly as you need to be to begin right now. The people you admire didn't get where they are because someone opened a door for them. They walked through it themselves, sometimes when no one believed in them. You have that same power. You always have. So give yourself permission to speak boldly, to move fearlessly, to live unapologetically. Approve yourself so deeply that the absence of other people's validation no longer affects your direction. You don't need a green light. You are the green light. And the moment you realize that, everything about how you move, lead, and live will change forever. At the end of the day, everything comes down to one simple truth. No one is coming to save you, validate you, or crown you ready. You've been waiting for permission that you never needed in the first place. The doors you keep staring at are already unlocked. You just haven't turned the handle yet. The moment you stop waiting for approval and start acting like you already have it, your life begins to change. Because here's the truth, people don't follow those who seek permission. They follow those who give it. They follow those who move with conviction, who trust their instincts, who decide they are enough without a second opinion. That kind of self-belief doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you unstoppable. Every great transformation starts with a single decision. The decision to stop asking and start doing. You don't need someone else to validate your timing, your choices, or your dreams. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start where you are with what you have and trust yourself enough to figure it out along the way. Stop shrinking. Stop hesitating. Stop handing your power to people who don't even know what to do with it. You were never meant to live a life built on permission slips. You were meant to build one on purpose. So take a breath, stand tall, and remind yourself of this. You are the approval you've been waiting for. No one else gets to decide what's possible for you. You don't need their yes. You are your own yes. And when you finally start living that truth, when you move through the world like someone who doesn't need to be chosen, everything around you shifts, opportunities appear. Respect follows, confidence grows. The people who once doubted you will wonder how you did it. And you'll smile, because you'll know the answer. You stopped waiting. You gave yourself permission. And that simple, powerful decision changed everything.